Monique.
Hey, Lauren.
Thank you for doing this.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming all the way up here.
Yeah, it's beautiful up here. We're in Traverse City. Mm-hmm. You're here. You're taking care of your mother, right?
I am. I've been her caregiver now since August.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a blessing.
Yeah. You said before that you felt like you were prepared, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that you're ever really prepared. I think it's just whatever the Lord puts on your heart. I learned that from going on rally for an entire year.
Yeah.
You just don't prepare for that, you know? And once I stopped preparing, that's when I really felt God working through me and saying what I needed to say. Yeah.
Well, once you stop preparing, you felt God working through you.
Yeah.
Isn't that it, though?
Isn't that it? Yeah.
It's true. It's like the more you hold on to it, or the more you let go of it, the more God shows up.
Yeah, like I've heard time after time on rally that, you know, when I stopped preparing, people would come to me from the congregation and say, wow, you know, that really touched me, or I really needed to hear that. It was because the Lord had put it on me to say what he needed me to say, because he knew already who was going to be in the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, he already knew, so, you know, he just works through us that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had prepared you and put it on you in advance.
Right, yeah. But I just stopped, like, preparing. So for today, I didn't prepare. I mean, I prayed and I was like, you know, God, you know, give me the words and the wisdom, you know, what I should say or shouldn't say, or, you know, and he just does that. So I just feel like those words are just more fluid.
You know, I feel like you're speaking directly to me, because that's something I seriously struggle with, and like, because I want to be prepared, but also like, I want it to be natural and let's just talk.
Yeah.
So I kind of am torn between doing that, but you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, God shows up when you.
He does. And as it turns out, like, my life has been so busy and chaotic that setting time to prepare for something that I'm not going to be prepared for anyway.
Yeah.
It's just not in the not in the cards for me.
True, setting time to prepare for something you're not going to be prepared for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like worrying, maybe.
It's a lot about worrying. Because I feel like I'm a chronic worrier. I'm just a chronic worrier. And in letting God take full control of my life, and I'm not perfect at it, I fail all the time with it, but I tend to worry less when I just let him do his work and, you know, get Monique out of the picture, take a step back, and just let him work, you know. That's when I'm doing more of that and less of me, then things just have a tendency to work out. And they're always going to work out regardless of, you know, what we prepare for. It's something that, you know, I've really had to work with my mom being here is, you know, we've gone through a couple of seasons of change since I've been up here, and like she's like, why aren't you worried about this? Or, you know, this is so big, like, why isn't it bothering you? And I said, you know, I can't say that it's not bothering me, but what I can say is God already knows the outcome, and I can't put any more energy into it than what I already have. And it just, you know, I try to take myself out of the equation, because putting me into the equation, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to take yourself out of the equation.
Yeah.
You said you learned this stuff doing the rallies, and
well, I learned it with just being at Teen Challenge. The rallies was more of like the preparation and preparing for today, but when it gets to like the worrying, it's really come with time. I think it would be more after leaving Teen Challenge, because when you're at Teen Challenge, everything is set up for you. Like, you have no decisions to make.
Right.
And it's just all, you know, regimented for you. But then when you come home, it's a completely completely different life. It's just a completely different life. So I've gone through a lot since being home with Teen Challenge, and I've had a lot of worries, a lot of things to worry about. But again, the more that I just let God do His work, I worry. I have a tendency to worry less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel like at Teen Challenge, was that where you first encountered God?
Well, in that magnitude, yes.
Yeah.
I was born and raised into the Catholic Church,
Okay.
and I went to Catholic school. Actually, minus high school, I went to Catholic school my whole life, including going to college. I went to a Catholic college.
Okay.
And, you know, again, it was like just going through the motions. We went to church every Sunday. I went to Catholic school. I followed all those rules. But once that was all said and done, like I knew God. I knew about Him, but I didn't know Him. And that's the big difference. Like I didn't know about God's grace and mercy. Being raised in how I was raised, it was like God was a punishing God. And so whenever I'd mess up, which it was a lot, like I've really been through a lot in my life, not only was I condemning myself, but I was terrified of God because I was so scared. Like with every little thing that I would do wrong, that I was going to be damned and punished. And then once coming to Teen Challenge, I learned about His grace and His mercy and His love and His forgiveness, and that made a huge difference, because then getting to know God in that light makes a huge difference.
So you went from knowing about God to knowing God.
Yeah.
That's when you saw a real change.
I started to, it's not even seeing the change, it was feeling the change.
Yeah.
Just feeling the difference. And I know Teen Challenge, and again, I was taking care of my dad, and I was very close to my father. Like he was just one of my biggest supporters, and before going to Teen Challenge, he saw me just a reckless case of probably not gonna make it. And once I got home, he thought that I was just acting. Like, oh, she's just acting this because, you know, maybe she doesn't have anywhere else to go, or she wants something out of me. What does she want now? Type thing. But then, like, months are passing, and he's seeing the change. He's seeing me go to church. He's seeing the difference. And he said, you know, I just don't even recognize you. He's like, it's not even just the way you look. He said, but it's the whole way that you act. He said, you just look different. And I was like, okay, so, I mean, it took time to establish that, because over the years I've really lost his trust, so.
Yeah. Did you take that as a compliment when you said that?
Yeah. Because, you know, I had heard several times while being in the program is your whole countenance changes.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, I was like, well, I wonder if that's me. You can look in the mirror and you're like, well, I still look the same. Right? But once I started hearing, like, I don't even recognize you. Because I wasn't carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry as much as I was. And, you know, carrying all that weight tires you.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like I had a tired, angry face. Like,
see change in other people.
Yeah.
And that's what really like got me to see like, oh, maybe I am changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And when you see other people, you're changing. You're like, well, am I changing? Like,
Right.
is it? I don't know if I'm changing because, you know, we spin through those cycles in our head that we're just never gonna make it, or this is just me. You know, I'm always going to be this person addicted and afflicted, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some guy, I was wearing a NASA hat, and some guy was like, oh, do you work for NASA? And I was like, you think that I could be a scientist? Like, if you knew where I came from. And like, so
Right.
maybe seeing that, like, other people noticing the change in you or seeing
Yeah.
something they don't.
Because, you know, when you encounter people in life, like, they don't know who you are.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest blessings about coming over to Traverse City is, besides my mom, nobody knows me here. I had always heard that you really shouldn't go back to where you originally started getting into trouble or starting having problems until you're ready. And you're not ready really per se when you're first getting out of treatment or any type of program. It's just too hard to go back into those areas. It takes time to build up, you know, confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
To go into these places. You're like, okay, you know, I've got a God that's, you know, carrying me through these situations. I have a deep level of faith at this point, and you're starting to walk out the walk. You're not just talking about it anymore. It's the old habits that we used to have. Now we have new habits, and it just makes things, you know, just easier.
So you found some freedom in going to a new place. Yeah, I think I can agree with you.
Yeah, like, I know when I first got home to Alpena from Teen Challenge, people would see me walk away, or hey, there she is, and you know, I'd been arrested there so many times, and it was hard for me to just take a walk in the evening, and I would have some of the old police officers that arrested me stop me and be like, at it again, huh? And like, I didn't have a chance up there. And even I stayed up there for about 2 years until my father passed, and I was unemployable up there because my reputation, I had ruined it so badly. I really struggled, and being in a new area where people don't know me, and they see you and they see the new you, so they see the best you. Yeah, so they don't see that old, you know, troublemaker.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, to say it nicely.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got healing from those, maybe, like when I went to my hometown years later, like this was just recently, like I know what you're saying, like you almost felt like you were crawling back in an old skin.
Yeah.
Or like people are seeing me the way I used to be, but recently I went back and I just
very candid about it, so ask any questions about it. But I came into Teen Challenge. I was court ordered to go there. I did ask for permission. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I had a mentor that would see me every Friday when I was incarcerated suggest, and she had suggested for years that I go to Teen Challenge. And I'm like, no, well, arrest after arrest after arrest. I'm finally like, it came to a point where I was facing 22 years in prison.
Oh my God.
And she said, so are you going to ask? I said, they will never let me go. Not with having that much time held over me, but just throw it out there and ask.
Yeah.
And the judge granted me permission. So I was like, that was, a big relief. But again, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I had been to rehab so many times. So I was like, well, it's just another rehab. It's just longer. And no, it was not at all what I had anticipated. But sometime when I was in the program, hope started entering in, because I didn't know that I could make it through the program. I didn't know that I struggle with worry and anxiety. I didn't know if I'd be able to make it through. But there was a point in my program, actually I know exactly when it was. So in the program, you know how we would get like those days out, and then you get your, what is it, a 3-day and then a 5-day, something like that. Okay, so it happened at my 3-day. And I was supposed to be leaving the property to go away for 3 days. Last minute, the plans fell through. Like, in here, I'm devastated, because I was like, I just need to get away. I just need a break. And last minute, they fell through, and I got called into the office, and I was told. I literally threw a fit. Like, I was ridiculously crying, like ugly crying, and I just wanted to go home. And they're like, no, you don't. And I'm like, yes, I'm going home. Give me the phone, or else I'm just going to do this myself. And I called my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm done with this. I've been here for 8 months. Prior to that, I had been in jail. I've been sober for over a year. I'm good. I'm coming home. And he just laughed. And I was like, did you hear me? Like, I'm packing my stuff. I'm coming home. He said, you don't have a home. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm coming to your house. He said, you're exactly right. It's my house. You don't have a home. I said, you're going to sit there and you're going to finish what you started, and then we'll talk about it. He never told me no, but he did. And so then at that point, it was like a real pivotal point in my program that God closed every single door around me, but opened up a new way of life. Like, he opened up, I had a new set of eyes after that. I felt a different, like, I needed to get those tears out for whatever reason. I needed to get that fit out of the way, and I needed to hear the word no from my dad, and that he meant it. So when it comes to having hope, I was like, there's no way I can finish this. But God filled me with a whole new sense of hope that with him I can. Acting the way that I acted in the office that day, absolutely not. I couldn't have finished. But he gave me hope at that point. And I remember just feeling lighter and more spirited. And I was like, literally every door around me closed. I am not welcome anywhere right now. But at the point, I was also visiting with Pastor McLean and his wife a lot in their home. I was like, I cannot believe these people letting me into their house. Like, my own family won't let me in. But, a lot of things changed right there. And that's like right at the 8-month point.
Yeah.
gave me that whole new like renewal. It was just like, I can't explain it. It was just a feeling that came over me that just really gave me a lot of hope for myself, and hope actually for my future at that point. I was like, I can hear the word no, and I don't have to drink over it. I can hear the word no and still be okay. Like, that's not an end all.
Yeah.
That's not an end all for me. And hearing the word no, especially from my dad, was devastating. But I heard no many times from him after that, and I was equally okay.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, you know, I can respect that.
Did you ever get to share that with your dad about that moment?
I did. And you know, one of the most important conversations that I had with my dad prior to him passing was thanking him for saying no, for not allowing me to come home, for stopping bonding me out of jail, for the tough love that he showed me. I said, because the reality was, Dad, I was going to leave Teen Challenge and relapse. Or when I got out of jail every single time, you know, I went straight back at it. And I want to thank you. And I remember writing that in a Father's Day or birthday card to him, just how important that was, that he showed me that hard, tough love at that point. And he cried. He's like, are you serious? Like, I'm like, yeah. And I think that's really when he started to see the heart change that I had had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think all the times, like, maybe God might say no to us. And, like, that we should be thankful for those things.
And God says no a lot. There's a lot of things I asked for. God send me a husband, for crying out loud. And he's like, no, you know, it's okay. Like, he does say no.
Yeah.
He closes some doors that we're like really running through every single day, and then
Yeah.
just done.
Yeah, he does.
But you know what? We're okay. It's okay. I think an analogy that I try to use is that in my life, I'll speak for me, in my life, and going through my mess that I was in, looking back at the problems that I hear right now, looking back at the way I used to live, that's hard. That's hard. Like, living addicted.
Yeah.
Like that, man, that's a really hard life.
Yeah.
Like, I was homeless for a period of time, and you know, I look back at it, I'm like, that was bad. Like, that was really hard. Like, I was living behind dumpsters and breaking into abandoned houses just to have shelter, and just the thought process that has to go behind those things, and you know, am I gonna get caught? You know, what's all the stuff that goes along with it that's so anxiety provoking. And hearing no and having a door closed right now is so much easier than the life that I used to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, God truly does have, like, a purpose and a plan for us.
For sure.
It's so hard to see that on you when you say those things, like, that life you used to live.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, it's only by God's grace that I'm alive today, because I certainly shouldn't be. I had a tough about 2 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah.
Noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think. You said something about God softened your heart too, and I was thinking, like, what is that like? Or have you ever been put in a situation and you're like, whoa, I know how I would have reacted? Like you're saying with the
just reminding me that He has the ultimate plan. And that one thing that I would say to myself, and I say this in a lot of instances, is that I lost my train of thought. I don't know, I guess I'll get back to it. But it's just something. I had to keep reminding myself that God saved me from something that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know. Maybe one day I will know. Or maybe I'll never know. I don't know. But I see that in a lot of scenarios in my life where when I get some of those hard no's, when I get some tough news, that he could be saving me from something.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you don't deserve it. You don't deserve that guy or whatever situation. There's something that I was being saved from. And the only, I don't know what it is, but it saved me from a whole lot of heartache.
Yeah.
So, if that's all it is, that's fine. But I don't need to know the reasons in every single situation.
But you know you were saved from something.
Something.
Or protected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had that same exact thing happen.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, God's like protecting me from the thing that maybe I wanted.
Right.
And
yeah.
Isn't that a whole different side of God that like I never seem to give him credit for?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and it's hard to give credit in that area,
Yeah.
but it's true. It's true. And there's times where I'm running late, or we're late for an appointment because I take my mom all over to her appointments, and we're 5 minutes late here and there, whatever. And I remind her, I'm like, if we would have left, say 10 minutes before we did, who knows if there's a car accident in the way. Maybe I overthink that kind of stuff, but sometimes that's the way of me getting myself through some of those situations.
Yeah.
Is He could be saving me from something. I don't know what it is, but I've heard it many times throughout my life when people say, man, if I would have only been on time, or had I left any earlier, it would have been me in that car accident.
Yeah.
It would have been me with whatever bad situation it is. And so I just started to kind of adapt that when I do get some of those hard no's, or that He's saving me from something.
Maybe that's one of the surrender.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just makes us more flexible in God, or like moldable maybe.
Yeah, and you have to be moldable, because living in our old skin it's like there's no flexibility whatsoever. It's my way, I'm going to do it that way. I don't care who I affect along the way. It's just going to be just like that. It's just going to be my way. I'm not going to hear no. I'm going to get what I want. And God doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
He does not.
True.
He doesn't, man.
My dad gave me some good advice too. He tells me every chance he gets, but he says like when he wakes up and he surrenders to God every morning, he's like, there's nothing anyone can do or say. Like I've already laid that down before I
Yeah.
even leave.
Right.
That way, like whatever situation comes about, he's already surrendered it. So
Yeah, for sure.
maybe it just helps us, like you said earlier, like takes us out of the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't always want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't need that recognition anymore. Just God's got it, no matter what. I had no plans of staying up in Traverse City when I came back up in August, but I'm here. And I was mad that I was here, but I was happy because I got to see my mom. But my plan was get things figured out, head back down to Detroit, because that's just where I wanted to be. And it didn't I don't know, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's freeing in a way I didn't think it would be.
Right. For
You know,
sure.
like letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we want control of everything.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm in the driver's seat, it doesn't turn out too well.
Right. I know. Yeah. We end up back in our old situations, our old habits. All of a sudden, we're calling that person that we're not supposed to be calling, or we shouldn't be calling.
Yeah.
Or I start thinking, and I'm like, should I just text that person? And if I have to ask myself, should I? Then I already know the answer. Yeah.
It's cool that truth is in us, though. Like God put that. Like maybe that's His Spirit, like showing us. You know.
It is. I believe that. He works in quirky ways. Yeah.
You talked about you were on the other side of addiction. The last guy, you said you were sober and he was not.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like seeing it from that perspective?
Awful.
Yeah.
It was really awful. And not only was he addicted and I was sober, but I was enabling at the same time. And it was a really hard position to be in because detoxing is bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And that's all he would have to really say is, detoxing bad. And I'm like, okay, I definitely don't want him to feel like that. So here's some money. It was a real tough position to be in. Really tough.
Yeah, and it was bad because you went through it. You detoxed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too. The worst.
It's awful.
It's hard to even describe that to people.
Right, you can't.
Yeah.
It's only those of us that have experienced that you can, because you could be like, well, I get the shakes really bad, and my mom's like, well, I'm shaking. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. But
it's like internal too,
yeah.
It's funny that we go from like trying to describe what bad things feel like to now God, and you're like, it's hard, both are hard to describe.
They are. It's just something I feel like you have to experience for yourself.
Yeah.
It's up to us to carry out the message. And, I've had people come up to me that I didn't know, and they're like, I have no problem singing in the grocery store, and I say hi to everybody, and I want some of what you have. Like, what pill are you taking? And I'm like, well, it's actually Jesus.
Yeah.
So, I tend to get looked at, and I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. I said, this wasn't always me.
Yeah.
But have a blessed day.
It wasn't always us. That's true. That's cool. Like you carry that light with you, and people see it.
Yeah, I hope so. I want people to ask me, why are you so happy? Like in the world with everything that's going on, what makes you so happy? And so I can tell them. And depending on how much time they'll give me is how much information I'll get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool thing. I think maybe as believers we all want our light to shine in a way that people would notice,
Yeah, I wish.
Or take notice.
Well, yeah. And honestly, I wish more people notice the light in us, the new us, like the light that, God just has like emulating around us versus when they saw us in dark situations.
Yeah.
And walking around, for me, it was unbathed for 10 days at a time, and we get noticed a lot then.
Yeah.
Like, what is she up to? Or, just some homeless bum. We get noticed a lot back then. And I wish that more people noticed the singing ridiculously in the grocery store and, just saying hi to everybody. It's just be kind. God has given me that. He has instilled in me the only way I can describe it is like I have a childlike heart. And I'm very animated. I'm not saying, like, I'm not immature. That's not having a childlike heart. I laugh at the small things. I don't know. I'm very playful. Like, if I'm, like, with my dogs and just whatever situation. And I love to babysit if ever given the opportunity. Just because I have that.
Yeah.
And he gave me that. That is not always the case.
Right. Yeah, it's not always the case.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there was probably a time where no one would consider us capable of things like that.
No way,
babysitting.
never.
Yeah.
If somebody asked me to babysit living in the life that I was living, I'm like, are you crazy?
Someone had me dog sit, and I was surprised at that.
Right, yeah.
But it was cool. Those things are cool. Maybe those are like, confirmation that God is moving in our hearts.
For sure.
Because sometimes it's hard to, like, do you ever feel like disconnected from God?
Yeah.
You know, like, even though we're on this path, like, where you just don't feel like you're, what do you do then?
I have to dive deeper. I have to not focus on the disconnect, but focus on the reconnection.
Yeah.
Where did I start? And it always comes with being busy. For me, like, the busier I get, the more I feel disconnected. And you know what? God, for me, slows me down in some wild ways. Because when he starts seeing me starting to spin, I haven't relapsed anything like that yet, but I'm busy, I'm running errands, I'm a people pleaser, and I'll just say yes to everything in every situation. Like, yes, even though I just work 12 hours, I'll still go do your grocery shopping, and yes, I'll still do your laundry. Regardless of how tired I am, I just keep saying yes, yes, yes. But God, I always ask God kindly that if you have something to tell me, make sure it is blinding bold. Like, you have to make the situation severe, or else I'm just going to keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
Well, my life was starting to spin in that direction this past winter, and then boom, I found out I broke my foot. And I had to slow down at that point. He's like, okay, if you're not going to slow down, and I'm not saying he didn't break my foot, but he's going to give us a reason to slow down. And my foot's been broken for, like I was telling you, quite a while. But he started allowing me to recognize the pain and start having things. I was like, wow, I had no choice, but like, I was in a non-weight bearing cast, and like, I didn't have a choice. Like, I couldn't do all those things anymore because I had a cast on my foot.
Right. Yeah, I think I learned some of that at Teen Challenge too. Mm-hmm. Is like about slowing down.
Yeah.
And like, cause it seems like counter to what you would think. Like, I'm not working towards getting a house. I'm not working.
Right.
But it's like the time away, it's like God stills us, calms us, and then speaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Made me think I worry about maybe just the world or friends or something, or myself. I get caught up in stuff the same way, you know?
Yeah, it's real easy.
Yeah.
It's real easy to get caught up, and before you know it, you're starting to think the way that you used to. And one thing for me is like, I found myself like getting back into some of the harsher music that I was listening to, and it's little things that you don't think are going to matter that really start to matter. They just really start to matter, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're not in the Word anymore, you're not doing your devotions anymore, you're no longer reaching out to no, like, I can still listen to that. I can still do this or that, you know, whatever spin you want to put on it. Like, that I can do those old things and not be in any type of jeopardy or danger. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's not going to happen to me. So maybe that happened to you, but that's not going to happen to me. And before you, like, we're making compromises on everything.
Yeah.
It just becomes easy.
Yeah, I think I've been nervous to talk about some of those little things because it does sound radical, especially when you're first getting into it. But then later on, you see how much you've changed, and you're like, oh, I don't even think the same as I did.
Yeah.
Or talk the same. But yeah, it's still maybe nerve-wracking to say that stuff. But
it is, and I think it's important that you have your people that you talk to, that you call out to, and have some of those tougher conversations. I know I have one friend in particular. I was actually in the program with her, and I can tell her anything without judgment. And it's important to have somebody like that like, you can just say, okay, you know, I really messed up. I just did this or that. And I'm not going to be judged by her. And, you know, we start having some of those hard talks. And talks that you think you're going to sound crazy if you talk about them. That's just the enemy creeping in, being like, shh.
Yeah.
Don't talk about that. That's not to be spoken of. That's the enemy coming in to close our mouth. And so, because the more we close our mouth, we're going to trip up at some point. Like, you can't keep doing those things and expect everything to be okay. You just can't.
Yeah, there's some, like, relief when you let it out, especially to someone close like that.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's really important to have a few people that, and we don't talk every day. Sometimes we'll go a month without talking, but we'll pick up right where we left off the next time we talk. And, you know, I cherish that very much.
Did you know you were building that at the time? Like, that relationship? Or, like, you immediately click? Or
we kind of did. I was her big sister in the program. Yeah. She was my first little. And, like, we just saw things similar. But, I mean, and we had some tough times, some fights that were had, and moments of not speaking for a little bit. But now, post-program, quite some time, we look back at those things, and, like, I remember we were walking on the track during our recreation time, and, like, I had been overthinking a lot of things, and I said, you know what, starting today, if you're gonna gossip, then I just can't be around you anymore. As if, like, I wasn't gossiping or something, like she was just being the one to do that. And she's like, what? And I said, I can't be around you if you're gonna gossip. And she's like, you gossip too. And I'm like, I know, but I wouldn't do that if you weren't here.
Oh.
And it's, you know, silly to think about that, but now we can laugh about those things. And it's just small conversations that it was really hard for me to have that conversation with her, even as close as we were, because I didn't want to hurt her, and I also didn't want to lose her as a friend. But I was afraid that the anxiety that I was having was because we were gossiping. I was convinced. I thought, well, if I tell her that she can't gossip to me anymore. But having faith that we had survived that tough conversation has many conversations that were tough for us to have that has made our friendship so beautiful, and it's just so open and honest and having hard talks, because it started little, with some of those little conversations and building up that trust that now I feel like I could tell her absolutely anything, and I do. I tell her. She's that sounding board for me.
So in a way, that hard conversation opened the door for future.
Yeah, because nobody likes to have a hard conversation, especially with somebody that you're in a box with for an entire year. But it's just having some of those conversations has built up a different level of trust. And it's not just my friendship with her, it's a practice. All of this was a new way of living for me. All of it.
It is very new.
Yeah, foreign and scary, but once I'm no longer in the equation, I'm just the vessel going through. It makes things a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I think about the new life too. Like in the beginning, you're almost uncertain if this is the right way, or like I know we're told, and like you do have like a seed of faith, and maybe that's growing.
Right.
But you don't always know it's going to work out for our benefit, or
or am I epically failing again?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's just allowing God to pick up and do His thing, so I won't do my thing. And it's hard. It's not something that I can do without effort. Like sometimes I really have to give myself a pep talk, but
so we were taught this like new way of life, and I know that we're taught by like we went to classes, and we had sermons, and there were like you said, maybe a big sister there to like guide us. But what's it like being taught by man and then taught by God at the same time? Because aren't they working together kind of? And like, because people can teach us so much, but God like teaches us through our situations. What's that feel like?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. But something, that I encourage people to really think about is being taught by God versus being taught by man is, what if God is using that person to teach me to live? So it's really Him, at the end of the day. The whole thing is just really Him anyway, and it's just up to us if we're going to follow His way or if we're going to follow our own free will.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's hard, I guess, to be taught by men because we can see their like flaws.
Oh yeah.
Like you saw the gossip and you're like,
right.
How can this person be teaching me about God when they're still?
Yeah.
But then we try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is a faith thing. We just have to trust that God's got the whole thing under control.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and He's guiding us and protecting.
Always.
Yeah.
It's like this life it has become much easier. Like I haven't been in the program for I guess like 3 years now, and I've established a lot of groundwork since I've left. I've lived life, and it feels like a lifetime. But just like anything else, the more practice you put in, the better you're going to become. And I'm not saying, a practicing Christian becomes a better Christian. It's you're a more seasoned Christian. You have more experience and knowledge for yourself, and more of that and less opportunity of making the bad decisions is, I guess that's what I've been talking about.
Yeah. thought was interesting is when you went or you had your 3-day and you broke down, and like, what about those tears and like letting that go? Like, why does breakthrough always come right on the other side of like something tragic, or like maybe not tragic but difficult?
Because looking back, it wasn't necessarily my plans abruptly changing last minute. It was a build-up over, just time, and I hadn't cried a whole lot since jail, like here and there, but not like that. I had to. It was a lot of build-up and just releasing that, and then I felt like I could breathe again, because I was like could barely breathe on a regular basis. Like I was constantly like short of breath because I wasn't breathing.
Yeah.
Like in reality, I wasn't breathing.
You're surviving.
Right, existing.
Yeah.
And that's no way to live. Existence. My dog exists. It's existence versus living are two completely different things.
Yeah, sometimes I think maybe that's the abundance of life God was talking about. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it's not an abundance of things and those are okay, but yeah, you're living instead of just
right. You're just
think it only gets better.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
I'd like to travel down that path, check it out. More,
right.
Is it something that when you look back on your past, does that seem foreign now?
Very.
Yeah.
Very foreign. When I tell people about my times of being homeless and eating out of dumpsters and, robbing and stealing and doing all the things, like, what? I'm like, I promise.
Right.
And I've got the NBOC number to show you. I promise. So, I look back and I was like, man, was I miserable back then. The in and out of rehab, jail, detox centers, hospitals, that was my life. My parents hated to answer the telephone any longer because, especially if it was from out of the area, because it was, where is she now, or which jail is she in? Because I would end up in jail in like random cities that nobody knew that I was even there.
Yeah.
So, that was hard. And what's hard is seeing the disappointment in your parents' eyes and hearing the disappointment in their voices. That's hard.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've been able to use your past to maybe steer people in the right direction now?
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah. Any chance that I get to share my testimony and just sharing with people what I've been through, I hope it encourages them. That's all that I can hope for, right? I can't say do this or else that. It doesn't work that way, but
I know I'm encouraged by it, just hearing it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. It's my hope anytime I get an opportunity to, and it's like some of the most random situations and people that when I tell them what my life used to look like, they're like, no, and I'm like, man, I promise.
Yeah.
And they're like, they share their experiences and their struggles, and I talk to a lot of people that I just reach out to them in their struggles, and it's like, I'm always here. Like, I'll get you to wherever you need to go if that's the case. And people did that for me all along the way, and I know what an impact on my life that made.
Yeah, it's true. It's hard to see at the time.
Oh.
When you just want the next thing or whatever.
Yeah, definitely give him all the glory, because me doing things my way, epic failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, this has been super encouraging for me, and I know it will be for everyone else.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Like I said, it's tough to see, even in you, see in you some of the things you talked about going through.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just like gives glory to God. Like, how cool is that?
Absolutely, because I look back at some of my mugshots. Man, look like Cruella, like makeup all smeared. I look disgusting, and I take a lot of pride in putting myself together, because God has done so much work on me and so much change. He gets all the credit, because we know what Monique looks like when she's getting the credit for her life.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks again. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
it. It's
you.
great. I feel at
for
peace
sure.
even just being around you.
Oh, good.
And,
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm thankful. Maybe we'll do it again sometime or
Yeah,
something.
maybe. You never know.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Monique.
Lauren.
I appreciate it.
No problem.